I don't think you can build anything really great if you're building 40 products a year. In the beginning, it was super easy. Just put out a video of the product and it will go viral.
Retention is the hardest thing to crack. You're dealing with broke students, right? The average student is very broke and really doesn't want to pay more than they can. Like, you thought the market was this big, it wasn't. You thought the willingness to pay was this much, it wasn't. How do you set the guardrails so you don't spend your time on the wrong thing? Michael, welcome to the show. For those of you joining us, welcome to Distribution by NewForm, where we interview the world's top founders and those building in the consumer app space and talk about, you guessed it, distribution. So Michael, welcome to the show.
Good to be here. Good to be here.
For those of you that don't know Michael is the founder and CEO, co-founder and CEO of Quizzard and Oleve. Oleve is an app holding company, and Quizzard was, I think, your guys' first product.
First product, yeah.
6 million ARR. You've been pretty public about the numbers within maybe a couple years?
2 years. We hit around 2 years.
Wow. So, for those of you who don't know, there's this list that came out, which is like top companies by like revenue per full-time employee.
My co-founder was so hyped about this.
Yeah.
I get he wakes me up in my room. He's like, Mike, you have to see this list. You have to see this list. I was like, what is it? He's like, we're on this list of the best revenue to employee ratio.
Yeah.
Super proud.
So you guys are what, 5, 6 FTE?
Yeah, around 5 full-time. We just recruited 2 more engineers, which we're super hyped about. So scaling the team up, but up to this point, been like super lean, and it served us really well.
Yeah, so a million per FTE is crazy. I think there was only a few companies, I think, above you guys. How did you get here? We talked about it before the show, obviously, but for those of you new to the Quizzard story, I want to hear more about how you got there.
Dude, totally, yeah. Let me let's start early days for me. So I've been in the kind of internet money, building online businesses thing for a while now.
As we all have been.
Yeah. I feel like I see so many people in this space. I'm like, wait, I saw you on Twitter 6 years ago. But yeah, so basically I started by reselling shoes when I was in high school. That was my initial kind of thing. Still have the same Twitter account from those days. But learned to program and then got into really into consumer app development and kind of consumer communities around that time.
When was this?
Basically, my first community that I ran and / product was when I was 17 or so. So that was 2017.
Wow. Okay.
And that was, we made a community for collectors of limited edition action figures. It was called Funko Dojo.
Okay.
Ran that up to 6 figures in ARR before I graduated school. I was just on my laptop in class all day. Helped 2 people get married, donated a few thousand action figures to children's hospitals. And that was my real learning, this is what ARR is. This is what churn is. This is what a happy customer is. And that really just kind of shaped kind of everything I did afterwards. From there, went to school and met my 2 co-founders and we started working on Quizzard. At the time we were...
How did the idea come about? Right? Was it just you wanted someone to do your homework that, what wasn't you? How did it come?
It's pretty spot on. At the time, it was around November of 2022. So right before ChatGPT came out. And
okay.
Yeah. And so basically me and my co-founders, we all had access to the GPT-3 API, right? And at this time, there was only the playground, right? And so you'd start using it to help you with your homework, write an essay, that whole kind of thing. But it was only really the computer science majors who knew about it. And then you'd show someone outside of the major and they'd be holy shit, this is magic, right? And so we're okay, that's a positive signal, right? And once again, there was no really big consumer products for education at the time that were using AI. So we're okay, what if we put this behind a camera and made a photo math kind of thing, but for every subject, right? And so one day I walk into my co-founder Ashraf's room. We actually lived in the same frat house at the time.
Sick. What frat?
Theta Chi.
Okay.
Yeah. And basically he's sitting there and he's has this setup on his phone and it's this really ugly UI, but it's you take a picture, use some OCR, throw it into the GPT API, and boom, comes out an answer. I was holy shit. This
that was the aha.
Yeah, I was this is gonna go super viral, right? Because it was you look on TikTok at the time, you search up photo math, and it's there's so much organic press. People love photo math, right? And about 1 in 4 high school students have used it in the US.
I used to use photo math.
Yeah, it was massive. It was insane. They had a lot of really interesting kind of tech at the beginning. They built such a strong brand because at the time, what they came out with was so novel.
Was it computer algebra or how did photo math operate?
Yeah. So
was it AI, some early version of that?
So they had really good OCR, which is basically how you detect kind of an equation in an image or letters in an image and being able to read that. but they also were using abstract syntax trees to like essentially do all of the math, right? So it was not really AI, just like more of like, okay, like if there's a plus sign, then we're going to do this thing. And if there's a subtraction, we're going to do this thing. So it was less, it wasn't an LLM basically. And so obviously pretty limited use cases, but like once again, huge brand. It was like on top of the App Store it still is for the longest time with like any kind of advertising. So
it got acquired by Google, right?
Yeah, like 500 million or
Holy
some
cow.
crazy amount.
Yeah.
Like absolutely insane. I think it was for the data, but who knows?
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so like Photomath was massive, and we were like, okay, like this is a big opportunity, right? Like I think like just let's take the same like really loved user experience and just apply it to every subject. And that was the original idea. So we started working on it. We built everything up and then launched it in January of 2023, like the January 29th, 2023. At the time, it was just a few of us, and we put out our first TikTok. And the TikTok was just a screen recording of the app, and it said ChatGPT and Photomath had a baby.
And ChatGPT was out by then. Like people knew this was, it was already viral.
So ChatGPT was like blowing up at this time, right? This is like 2 months post-release of ChatGPT, and like every single student, like you could make like literally any video of ChatGPT and like it would go viral on TikTok. Yeah, it was like absolutely nuts. It was a cheat code. And so basically at that time we're like, okay, we had the product out, and so Ben, who is still doing marketing with us, he's like my best friend since we were like 12 years old. He's a fucking killer.
Wait, so Ben was there from the start?
From the start, yeah.
Oh,
First
wow.
day, yeah.
Okay, so Ben, and all of you guys were in college at this time.
Me and my co-founders were at Northeastern, not Northeastern, University of Rochester. And can I curse?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, cool.
Like, I mean, keep it professional.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And then Ben was at Northeastern, and I had gone home for winter break, and I was like, "Oh, we're working on this thing." He's like, "You need to let me join." And Ben at the time, he was working on one of the biggest like Discord trading communities. Like he started it, and he was really good at marketing, and he's like absolute killer once again. So I was like, "Yeah, of course, like join the team." So he started leading marketing. He still leads marketing to this day alongside me. So he puts out the TikTok video. Just sitting there, like kind of refreshing our phones, and we're like,
addicting feeling.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. It's like the casino, bro. It's like pulling the slot machine.
How many likes this time?
Yeah, exactly. And so, the video like starts, it's like 1,000 views, like 2,000, 5,000, 10,000. And then like, it's like 1 a.m. and I'm like, holy fuck, we're at like 50,000 views. And then I get a text from my friend and it's like, yo, I just saw your video like on TikTok on my For You page. I'm like, oh, this is crazy. And then I can't fall asleep because like the video is still racking up views. Next morning, 1 million views and first 10,000 users, like overnight.
So was it an app then, or was it just a website? Like
it was an app.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're an app from the beginning.
You were an app from the beginning. We were very intentional about like marketing and like the funnels from the start. We like my other co-founder Ashraf. He used to like run like the biggest meme pages in France, and like I was also familiar with.
I used to run a meme page in high school.
Yeah,
too. This is such a common thing.
Yeah,
it's like there's this meme like it's either you resold sneakers. You ran a meme page. You were like some competitive gamer.
Yep.
Like that. If you had one of those traits, you're making it.
Dude, drop shipping, e-com, all this kind of stuff. 100%. I actually made a quiz on Twitter that was like a way.
Yeah, I saw that. I think you posted about it.
I wanted to find talent, so I was like, let me make a quiz and try to make it go viral to see like who's done all these things and hit them up for recruitment purposes. But anyways, that's a side note. So yeah, he used to like we were like super savvy about marketing. Ben had been running like TikTok marketing for his Discord community. That's how they grew. And so we were like, okay, from the start, we were like viral interface and like very low friction to like using the product. So like the first, like the product still like has no like you don't have to sign up. It's just like go through onboarding. Okay. And so yeah,
this was from the start. You guys knew to remove all that friction.
Yeah, I mean we were all like had done like consumer and kind of marketing before. Never really a consumer app in the same way. But everyone had some like pretty good like baseline knowledge of like how to do consumer.
Yeah, I mean to this day, like you'd be surprised how like rare that intuition is, right? And you still have folks that are first version of their app is like 50 screens. Yeah, right. It's like the first version you should have like 6 Figma screens total for your first version.
100%.
Right, like something less than 10 for sure. And you guys kind of you went to that straight away, which is probably a big reason for like their initial success. Like, tell me about for the first few months. What was that like? How'd you iterate on the product? What were the challenges that were presented then?
Dude, oh, great question.
Yeah.
This was so much fun. So, I'm also gonna give you some like other like kind of fun facts. So, basically, when we like started running this, right, it was basically you'd ask a question to the product, right? It was also yeah. So, anyways, you ask a question to the product, and it would put you in a queue to answer that question, and the reason why that actually was the case, and like basically in order to get past queue, you had to pay, right? So that was our initial paywall. So you'd pay for tokens. There was no like subscription model, which was a huge L. And so basically, we were doing that, and at the time, we actually were not paying for OpenAI at all, and we were actually like circumventing like
how.
Yeah, so there was this model out at the time called Codex, and it was like free to use, and I haven't shared this much, but yeah, it was free to use. And basically, you could, use it like it had a really like low rate limit, right? So you could only use like 50 requests per minute or something like that.
Okay.
But we're like, it's
was
free.
this like GPT in the background or?
Yeah. So GPT-3 was out at the time, and then Codex was also out. GPT-3 was really expensive, right? At this time, I was broke. I didn't have much money. I had made my money from shoes, but like I wasted it all on NFTs and gambling, and that was it. And basically, so at this point. So Codex was free, and so we're like, like this is interesting, but like the rate limit is too low. But what if we did something like a little crafty here? So I had
okay, so that's how you got the initial cash flow going.
So we had like 10 or like 15 friends like make OpenAI accounts and like put in my credit card, so that was like a valid account, and like we rotated like I made a job handler in the back end, like we rotated like 15 keys. And so the queue is actually like a functional queue because like we needed it, right? Like at the peak times we were getting up to like 20 minutes of like people waiting for one question because it was just like the traffic was so high and like we needed people to we had limited keys basically. But yeah, we didn't pay for any OpenAI for the first like month or so. We were actually like when they sunsetted Codex, the model, we were like got an email from like the OpenAI PMs and they're like, hey, you're the top user of Codex, like one of the top users, like can we chat with you? I didn't respond because I was like, I don't want to get in any trouble about this.
Wow.
But I'm pretty sure I put this in a tweet thread at some point, so it's fine now. But anyways, we did that. Learned like a bunch of like things along the way. I didn't like sleep for like 3 months. I think it was like absolutely nuts. But first thing was like, okay, people weren't monetizing, right?
You were still in college at that time.
Still in
college.
college.
Drop out.
No, still in college. Yeah. I was like, my GPA went down the drain, but like the revenue went up. So something was going up. And basically, so basically, like no one was paying, right? That was the first problem we had.
So no one was paying with the queue.
Yeah,
they'd rather wait 20 minutes.
They were waiting, but some people were paying, right? And they were paying. We were looking at the data. We're like, why are we making no money? Like we have so many users. We're looking at the data and we're like, wow, everyone who's paying is buying like the maximum token package. And so then we made it so then we were like, okay, interesting signal here. So we made it a monthly subscription. Boom, overnight, like ARR went like this. So like that was the first key unlock. Then we were like, actually like I hit up like Nikita Beer on Twitter and I was like, I DM'd him. I was like, hey, like I just launched this app, what should I do? And he was like, make it a weekly subscription and more expensive. We did that. Like once again, like next key unlock. And then like the rest of like those kind of months were just like making these like just minor tweaks across the product. It was just like, this isn't working. Okay, like how do we fix it? Retention is bad. How do we fix it? Figuring out kind of like the natural pattern of all of our users. And then I think on the marketing side, it was like, in the beginning, it was super easy. It was just like, just put out a video of the product and it will go viral. It was like, honestly, like,
it was a new thing.
Yeah, it was a new thing. I mean, like you still see this today when you like when you have something super novel, like people will just like jump onto it.
Yeah.
Had I known what I know,
especially visually.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is the thing that like we talk about. It's like you can only tell the same. Like, Photomath has the same story as you guys of just like, okay, well, we'll help you, solve math problems or whatever problems. But what you guys did is obviously there's a, back end change, but the user doesn't care enough about that as much as like the visuals look different. And to them, that's a different product.
Exactly.
Right. So I think this is where maybe the explosive growth came from, is it just looked so visually different to anything left on the market.
Yeah. It was that, and also just the fact that like you just like we attached buzzwords to it. It was like ChatGPT. People loved ChatGPT at that time. It was just like massive. Photomath, people loved it, and so it was like when you combine these like things that were just already naturally viral, like you just had a lot more virality. So yeah, it was the visual interestingness was massive in the beginning. So like we basically we kept pumping out videos of like literally it was like you just took the trend at the time and then just like put the product in the video and boom, it was so easy. Then competitors started to enter the market. And then things got a little more difficult. A lot of competitors. Yeah. Oh my God. There's so many now. Now we're fighting against fucking ByteDance.
Yeah.
Gauth. Yeah. They're pumping tons of money into ads every month. It's nuts.
I'm pretty sure they're losing on it. Like I can't verify that, you know, like ByteDance, please don't kill me. But like it's actually unreasonable the amount they're spending. And I think they're doing it at a loss, or at least like maybe they won't break even for quite a while.
I'm like 99% sure they have to be doing this at a loss. I mean, the spend is nuts. It's absolutely insane. It's across all channels too.
And for those listening, it's probably, I mean, like it's not, you know, nobody really knows, but it's at least $5 million a month.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's at least that.
It's insane. And so they're spending like crazy.
And their revenue doesn't match. On Sensor Tower, it does not, it's not $5 million, I'll tell you.
Yeah. It's like $200K a month. And I'm still trying to it's a very interesting strategy, right? It's like I think ByteDance just has a shit ton of money, so they can play this game, right? I think though it's a questionable market to play the game in, because I think Photomath proved one thing is that like you can build a like somewhat lasting brand in ed tech. The question is like how much longer will it last, because of the fact that like students are like ultimately like a like short lifespan. Like
well, yeah, everybody graduates.
Everyone graduates, right? And so like obviously it's like, oh, you know, my older brother used this, my older friend used this. So the brand like has some longevity from like after people graduate. But I think it's like the question becomes like, I think Photomath, I think we'll see them fall off in the next like 2 years, right?
Do you think it's technological, or do you think it's a marketing thing?
I think it's like a marketing thing. I think like there's like people are not spending like Photomath is not doing like an active marketing campaign anymore, right?
No, not as far as I can tell. Like, yeah. I mean, you know, funny enough, before NewForm, like this is a few years ago during COVID, I actually wanted to like do marketing at Photomath. I was like, hey, I was making all these math videos on my math page, and I tried to hit them up.
Yeah.
Like it would make total sense for them to like sponsor me, right? Like do a little package. Oh, I was charging like $1,000 for a video. I know I can get them more than that, right? In terms of value, no response. No, they don't know. I don't even know that they had like any influencer marketing manager or anything that anyone I can reach out to.
Probably missed out.
Yeah, missed out. Hey, they could have had Hamza, but you're right. Like these companies are just. There's a lot of ed tech companies. I mean, another one is Brilliant. Do you remember Brilliant?
Yeah. They're like more like actually helping people learn than like.
I loved it, dude. I think I owe Brilliant actually so much of my learning journey was through that. So I think that's when I really fell in love with math and learning, and everything was through Brilliant. But if you look at what they're doing right now, I mean, I think they're VC backed. They raised from, I think, Chamath's fund, but they haven't raised, ever since. And if you look at them, they haven't adopted, the new marketing strategies today. They run a lot of YouTube like placements.
Yeah.
So they'll do like the, typical YouTube, sponsor a YouTube video. That's worked really well for them. They've grown with that, but nothing on TikTok, not much on TikTok, not much on Instagram. They're not really exploiting these new growth channels. And if you think about, I feel like Brilliant was maybe because I was using it, but like I felt like Brilliant was a bigger name, 5 years ago versus now.
Yeah.
And it's not like their content has gotten worse or anything or their product. If anything, it's probably gotten better.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a trend you see across the market, and it's part of why there's such a big like consumer opportunity right now is that I'd say there's like so many like underpriced distribution strategies that exist. Partner with the fact that like AI has created all these kind of like wedge features that make your product super novel. And now you have this super low CAC because people are just like really attracted to what your product looks like. And then the fact that these like marketing channels exist that like these big players aren't touching. And now you have like, low CAC in a fucking rocket ship. It's just like opened up. It's why we're doing the holding company.
Oleve, right?
Oleve, yeah.
I mean, like I don't want to say, oh, like I predicted this before it became a thing. I was like preaching, from the mountaintop, whatever they say. Like basically when at Faves, which is my last startup, led growth and, product there for a bit. And like what I realized was like we had this little phase where we were looking at our competition, right? And we were seeing, basically Faves was like a way you can save, your favorite content, organize it into folders and stuff like that. It sounds like really boring on the surface, but hey, like it makes money, people pay for it, we have a subscription, similar model. And we looked at other people in the space. There was like a bunch of these like TikTok savers, And everybody, like when we first kind of went to this positioning, including people at the company, like, well, like you can just save on TikTok. Like you can, you literally, there's a button right in front.
Yeah.
Why do these apps exist and have millions of downloads and millions in revenue, right? Well, there was like a little niche problem. It was like one, the organization and folder aspect of TikTok wasn't great. People wanted something different. Second, like what we discovered was people want to actually save the video off the platform such that it doesn't get deleted. There's a reason people save TikToks, and there's a reason, their camera roll is all the way cluttered. Yeah. So that was like a big insight for us. It's like little tiny things that maybe could be boring. And then the last thing was like, essentially some videos you couldn't save to your phone. So a lot of people needed to use these apps because there wasn't like a save to phone button, and they're scared they'd get deleted, not realizing that like these apps only store the link and it'll get deleted either way. We actually store on the cloud. So it was like a pretty, like in the market, little change, right? Like, but people really cared. Looked at all our competition. It was all like apps coming out of like, it was China, Turkey, Eastern Europe, and gobbling up, it's like probably indie dev somewhere or like smaller companies gobbling up millions in revenue on like not the greatest apps. I'll tell you, like if you look up, the competition that's made, not in the States, it's not the greatest, but they're good at building things that people want. And I think like they're also good at marketing, right? Like for a lot of them, it's like ASO or something like that, but there's these marketing channels and these products that like people aren't building. And that's why I think we're seeing a resurgence. Like you mentioned the AI stuff, you mentioned the new marketing stuff. Where do you see this going in the next couple of years, right? Because we're already seeing a massive acceleration of that trend.
Dude, yeah, really good question. So I mean, you see like, once again, all these kind of like studios that exist outside the US. I think like none of these products will like often be lasting. I don't think that's the point of them either. Like I think like they're built to be like, they're just like, okay,
it's burn and churn. Like,
burn and churn, exactly. Like, how do I get someone past the paywall? And like, that's it. And like, how do I get them through the paywall for the cheapest price? I mean, it makes a lot of sense. You make a lot of money. But I think that like where we're going to see over the next few years, I guess more broadly in the consumer, not just like in a holding company senses, I think like, okay, one thing is very clear. There's a lot of like 10 million ARR like opportunities that exist in the market, right? And I think people are going to like gobble those up. And I think that they will like continue to exist, and there's going to be a lot of them, right? I think then the questionable thing is like, or what we want to find is like, okay, these like $100 million like kind of market opportunities. And I think there's probably like a few of them that exist.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, there's not many apps that make, well, it's like real short, those short drama stuff.
Yeah, those are crushing.
They make hundreds of millions.
My co-founder pays for those. It's like nuts. Their advertising is great. It's like they'll like lead you in with like watching an ad, and then they'll like convert you to a user to finish watching it. It's like, yeah, that's.
I still think this is Netflix's biggest missed opportunity. Yeah. I think Netflix would be twice the size it is today if they spotted that trend earlier. Again.
They need you as an advisor.
Big companies are slow, and I mean that's kind of the advantage of like the startups that are coming into the space. So, yeah, I mean, there's that. Like, what else do you see as the $100 million companies? Because you're right. Like, I look at Sensor Tower, I look at all these and I see it right in the day to day. At that 10 million mark, things plateau.
Yeah.
Right. Like we see a lot of apps plateau around there. I think like if you're in kind of fintech or something like that, yeah, like you probably don't see that until 50 or something because you're just dealing with higher LTV. But where do you see those big opportunities?
Yeah, I think health and fitness is like one of those markets. Okay, I think if you want to like get an idea of where they already exist is like you look at like, Sensor Tower, right? And like if you look at where they already exist, it's like, okay, there's Flow, right? And like kind of health and fitness. There's MyFitnessPal, who...
But even MyFitnessPal doesn't do 100 a year. You know that?
What are they at right now?
I think they're 40, 50.
Really?
Right? I would think MyFitnessPal does 100 a year.
Are you sure about this?
Maybe Sensor Tower data is wrong, but I think like...
Got to look at apps figures. I'm 99% sure. I mean, okay, so you look at that, right? And then you look also...
Wait, I'm going to look this up.
Yeah, pull it up. But so yeah, there's like... and then there's a few of those opportunities. Then there's like the games market, right? Which is like obviously like insane.
Obviously that's billions.
Yeah, billions of dollars. I think right now like the new markets I think there's like way more like health and fitness winners that are going to exist, right? I think it's like a super high LTV market. And
you said look at app figures?
App figures, yeah.
Hold up, because people are saying different things. So in January, okay, MyFitnessPal. Oh wait, maybe you're right. Wait, they're saying a much bigger number here.
Dude, it's like probably 200 million, right? Something like that. Like,
MyFitnessPal generated 300 million in 2023.
yeah,
is what they said.
yeah,
Okay, hey, I'm hating on them.
yeah. No, dude, they're
They
crushing.
got bought for like what, 500 million? They got bought for 500 million with Under Armour, and then they got sold to private equity for 345 million. But for a company that's doing that much, I mean, that's a good acquisition.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? And they were growing.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's a great market. Calorie tracking, like, beautiful market, right? And if you look
Cal
at
AI.
Cal AI, they're crushing it. It was like, I think it's one of the golden opportunities that like came out of like, especially this current wave. Is like, there's a few reasons. A, LTV of a user in fitness is great, right? B, like the distribution channels are awesome. Like I think like especially like fitness influencers, like people treat them like gods. Like they'll follow their words because they want to be more like this like fitness influencer. And yeah, it's like a big market.
It's a big market. I mean, we work with MyNet Diary, if you know them. I think they were one of the first apps on the App Store. Like I forgot their number. They've been around for a while, for like a decade.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a big market. They've never done paid before working with us. Right. Crazy. And it's just now we're thinking about, hey, how do we like light up their growth? Because I think they're number 20 on Health and Fitness
That's solid.
or something. And I was like, I think it was all organic leading them there. So yeah, you're right. If a company can grow that much all organic, it's clear. Yeah, like calorie tracking, that's a big space.
Yeah. I think once again though, health and fitness has a lot of opportunities. I think like some of the new opportunities. So I think there's a lot of room right now to like go into those spaces that already have big players and then disrupt them. Right. I think like Cal AI is a perfect example with MyFitnessPal. I think there's like a few other opportunities that exist outside of the market, and I think there's also a few opportunities in which there's apps that like couldn't exist before that are now going to also become those like $100 million opportunities. I would say one that I'm like super bullish on right now is like AI companionship.
Have you heard of Tolan?
Oh my God, yeah.
Wait, you know,
Ajay,
I just saw him like last week.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I think they introduced this new like UI where it's on a universe or something.
Yeah, I saw something like that.
Dude, that's sick.
No, dude, they're like I saw someone compare them to like they're gonna become like the Pixar of AI, and like so bullish on them. I mean, the team is fucking killer. But I also think just like the use case and the form factor is just like really well done. Also super TikTokable. So
it's just the visual. You're right. Like the visual and just I think it's a beautifully made app, right? Like all around.
Yeah. I think like another interesting consumer market, and this is not consumer apps and it's like kind of out of left field, but like the consumer developer space is also like really interesting. I think it's like
consumer developer space. What do you mean by that? Like
Cursor, like Bolt.new, Lovable, like.
Well, of course, that's like DevTools though.
Yeah, but like I think it's like a really interesting like if you think about consumer markets in general, like I think it's a really interesting case study because as you think about it, right, it's like okay, what matters in like building like really big consumer companies? Like especially like in this AI race, it's like okay, how willing is someone to adopt AI? And I would say that like if you look at that ranking, it's like probably number 1 is developers and number 2 is students. Right? And then like everyone else falls behind that. And then I would say like if you look at LTV of users, probably like one of the biggest LTV markets I think you could have for like a consumer is like a developer, right? Because it's like A, they have a bunch of disposable income, and B, they're using this thing to make money. And so now it's why you see like someone making like
or they just put it on the company card.
Yeah, right. But it's like, Bolt makes like I think they did 40 million in ARR in like the first like.
Don't you think those numbers are a little questionable though? Like, all right. I don't know the specifics of how you'd calculate it, but like a lot of times, like, and I see this with Cursor. I think someone posted this take on Twitter. I was like, okay, this is like a lot. This revenue is really unsure of how sticky it's going to be.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it is just like what they call like pilot revenue.
Yeah.
Right. It's like counting your demos as ARR is kind of questionable.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not saying they're not growing fast. It's clearly they're growing extremely fast and they're like doing a great job. But like, do you think that those revenue numbers are a bit inflated, and do you think that this behavior is here to stay? Right? I think it is here to stay, but do you think like the incumbents will win, right? Which is the Cursors, the Lovables.
Yeah. I think just like in general, like across the AI space, I mean like there's so much like I forgot who said this. I saw it like on a tweet the other day. It's like high calorie versus like low calorie ARR. Like there's just like so much like cheap ARR out there that currently exists.
ARR.
Yeah.
It's like people doing weeklies and like, oh, hey, we got it. Yeah. $7 a week, so it's, I don't know, like $350 of ARR.
Right,
you know?
exactly. It's like I made $10 in an hour. Boom, I'm at $1 million ARR.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, like, yeah, there's a lot of like, once again, like cheap ARR out there. And I don't know. It's just like I think we'll see it like evolve over time. Like we're gonna see these companies like, so a lot of companies churn, a lot of companies not exist soon. But I think there are like some golden opportunities that will stick around. And I think that's part of what we're trying to find with our holding company.
Tell me about the holding company, what you guys are working on, and yeah, I want to hear more.
Totally, yeah. So let me start. So basically, we were building out these like, we built out 2 edtech products before we started working on Oleve. And first edtech product, Quizzard, we grew to over 3 million users. Second product, Unstuck, we grew to over 1 million users in less than 3 months.
Wow.
And
yeah, there was a crazy reel you had with that. I still remember.
Yeah, like 60 million views. It was, dude, we were on a tear. It was like, I was even fucking sitting making the TikToks at that point for a little bit. And like there was like 2 weeks on Instagram where it was just like 20 million views, 15 million views, 14 million views, like.
And Unstuck is basically like you're recording your lectures.
Basically,
right?
yeah. It's like if there's like 2 jobs to be done for students, right? Like one is doing your homework and one is studying, right? Quizzard serves the like job to be done of homework, and then like Unstuck is studying. So basically on Unstuck, you can like record your lectures, you can like upload all of your materials and like ask questions like, oh, what is GDP? And we'll show you like the right paragraph in your textbook, minute in your lecture, and all that good stuff. So yeah, we built these 2 products. Both of them have done super well. And we looked just kind of like at what we had done as a team, like what we built and where we were at. And we were like, we've gotten really good at building consumer products and distributing them really fast and identifying the right opportunities in the market to act on. And, we were looking at like, we had been in this space for 2 years, and it developed a lot over those 2 years, right? It was like, at the time there was
it
like.
It wasn't cool 2 years ago.
Yeah, it wasn't cool at all, man.
Yeah.
It wasn't cool at all. And like, there was not many players in the space, right? It was like, I think around the time we launched, who else came out around that time? Like maybe Plug AI was like something around, and like, but not a lot of these like AI apps, right? And so
it was looked down upon. I mean, like even in the Valley, right? Like,
oh yeah,
now you guys are on Dreesen market apps and stuff.
Yeah,
like it's funny because this type of stuff now, like the folks that would get that type of institutional recognition or attention, were almost always going to be, honestly, like very binary, going for $1 billion opportunities, but don't make money.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't want to name names, but like I think we all know what we're thinking of. But a couple of years ago, consumer was dry. Like, what was a consumer company that was like on a tear a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
I mean, hey, maybe I was just new to space, but like I don't remember any. And yeah, now all of a sudden it's like it's cool again. Consumer's cool again, right? And like consumer makes money again, which is like
right away.
Yeah.
You can make money with a really shit product. You just have to be really good at funnels. But yeah, so basically like we built these 2 products. We kind of developed a lot of playbooks over that time. We're also like really good at building product. And so I was looking at the skill set of the team. We were looking as co-founders, like what are we good at? And we were like, yeah, we're good at this. We're good at building consumer products and distributing them. And then I was looking at the market over the last 2 years, and it's like all these teams have been popping up of these like, like 4 people, like these like really hungry, like 18-year-olds, all these different kinds of people. And they were like learning these playbooks from scratch and like growing their products really, really fast, right? I think it just showed like there's a surplus of opportunities in the market right now. And as I said before, like the $10 million opportunities, but also these $100 million opportunities. And so we said, okay, as a company right now, I think it makes most sense that we don't just remain an education company, but we build into this consumer kind of holding company. And I think, holding companies have always been kind of like not a very like kind of looked down upon, because it's like ultimately like the lore and
lower
like,
multiples. I mean, like you see with Berkshire, like their multiple as a holding company is way lower than if they were to just like each of their companies become their own separate entity.
Exactly, yeah. And I'll go more into that, but basically it's like, okay, holding company is also like in like the lore of like kind of Silicon Valley is like, like you're not going to succeed if you're like focusing on like all these different products. And I think like that applies like to like B2B SaaS and like a bunch of spaces right now. It's like totally like you should be really focused. And I think in a lot of consumer opportunities as well, like you should definitely be really focused. But I think like building these kinds of like initial wedges into markets can be done like really, really fast right now. And there's like a lot of really cool ways to validate those wedges. And Basically, okay, there's like three main reasons why this opportunity exists right now, and I kind of mentioned some of them before. One, building products right now is like 10 times faster than it was like just about a year ago, right? It's like I can build an MVP in a week instead of a month. I can iterate on the MVP in a day instead of a week. And like, now I can iterate much faster, right? Then pair that with the fact that there's all these kind of novel kind of like product features that exist in the market. And then pair that with the fact that there is these kind of, as I said, like underpriced distribution strategies that exist. It's this perfect time to build what I'd say are called like not just wedge product, but like wedge companies.
Wow.
And so with that, now it was like, okay, this is a perfect time to build these wedge companies. And, as our brand Oleve, find these like, I would say it's like the time to build this like $1 billion like kind of like consumer holding company. I think kind of like a like bending spoons of the US except. And
there's Palta as well.
Yeah.
Belarus. I mean, technically, like what, Cyprus? I don't know.
Yeah.
They're headquartered. But yeah, Palta has Flow, Lenza, Zing, which is I think fitness.
Yeah.
And others. But yeah, like, I mean, we're seeing this app holding first, like, one thing, app holding companies, like you can argue that they've been around for like with the gaming, like gaming kind of pioneered this model, right? Where we have different titles, right? And then it bled through utility and subscription apps. And you saw like folks in, Singapore, China, Eastern Europe spin these up. But only recently have they gotten, US attention and also institutional attention, right? So like, I think it was General Atlantic invested in Flow. I forgot who.
Yeah.
Either or now General Catalyst, something general. Invested in Flow, like that was a big round.
Yeah.
That like if you think about the way Flow grew, a lot of it was paid UA, a lot of it was like relatively unsexy, right, to the valley.
Yeah.
Right. More not really traditional, but just like not the PLG, like, oh, you have a 5K factor, right, type of company that like, the value was kind of based upon. You see these, and, there's a bunch of others like Codeways of the world and stuff like that. All of them are getting institutional attention. And I know, like, through the grapevine, I know they're talking to like the US-based VCs, right? So I think people are now realizing this, and even folks with, the capital to deploy are realizing this. I guess like, how do you think this world of app holding companies is going to evolve? Because what I'm seeing right now is honestly a lot of like burn and churn. Like a lot of these companies are putting out, 10 products in a quarter, right? Which is crazy. I know some are probably doing more apps than that, right? Is that going to be your strategy? Are you going to focus on only a few, like, as much as you can share? What are you guys, working on, and how are you thinking about it?
Yeah, totally. Good question. I think, as you mentioned, there's a lot of companies doing this kind of like, okay, like let's launch 40 products this year, right? That's not the approach we're taking. I don't think you can like really build anything really great if you're building 40 products a year. Our cadence is more like 4 products a year. And like giving each of them the time and attention to be nurtured into potentially a really massive company. I think the way that this like ends up playing out is that either A, in 5 to 10 years, we have 10 companies doing 50 to 100 million ARR, or B, at some time in the next 1 to 2 years, we end up finding the kind of this amazingly retentive product in this amazing market, and we say, okay, great, we're gonna sell every other asset we have, and we're gonna double, triple, quadruple down on this like one product. And so we're really taking this like more of like a quality approach and like product forward approach rather than this like, it's also distribution forward, right? But rather than like volume game. Because I ultimately think there are like these golden nuggets of opportunities. And we're really on the search to find those.
Retention is the hardest thing to crack.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, obviously anything in ed tech, you're doomed.
Yeah, it's
right?
fucked.
Because not only are you have the problem of like, well, people graduate.
Yeah.
Right. So that's like already like, okay, your retention can never be, above X%, because 25% graduate every year, right? Like a 4-year college, right? Or something. So that's one. 2, you're dealing with broke students, right? Like the average student is very broke and really doesn't want to, pay more than they can.
Yeah.
Or need to. So that's like one problem. The other thing is just like, honestly, Apple makes it really easy to cancel, which is good for the consumer. I think it's a good thing what they're doing. But also, for others like web products.
Yeah.
Right? Web products, I just naturally have a higher retention. Higher acquisition costs usually.
Yeah.
Higher retention. There's kind of, everything is priced in.
Yeah.
Like what I struggle to find consumer behaviors, and maybe this is like, I think it was like an Nikita tweet where it's like these like consumer behaviors that are retentive is like this like unicorn. It's like, yeah, you'll find it every now and then. You have like Meta, you have Spotify, you have these companies that are just like stumble their way into something that's like truly magical of a model, right? How are you thinking about finding that? Like, are you guys deliberately trying to look for that model? Or are you thinking, okay, we through this discovery process of building different products, one of those is going to show, those types of signs, right? Are you stumbling upon, or are you trying to discover it, from first principles?
Totally. So the way this like company operates is like, okay, so let me start here. We're very deliberate about like the markets we're going to be picking for like the products moving forward, right? And so I think like it's you want to like have an idea of like, this is a high LTV user, this is like a common use case, this is something that people could use every day, every week, etc. like from the start, right?
Right.
I think one of the things like when we first started Quizzard was like, it was honestly just kind of like, oh, let's build an app. Like if I'm being completely honest, right? We wanted to build something consumer. I think now we've learned a lot more about like, how do you pick markets, how do you analyze markets, et cetera,
right,
to like make the most calculated bet. And then it's about, okay, like making the most calculated, like, being really setting up a proper experiment of, okay, like this is the metrics we're looking for. This is how we're going to launch the product. This is how much iteration we're going to do. And this is where we're going to cut the kill switch if it doesn't work, right? Or this is when we're going to say this is a cash cow and we're going to take some offshore contractors, put them on this product, and like, use this as like another revenue stream for the company to build up the like the revenue flow.
I think that's a good way to approach. I think a lot of times, maybe this is like, listen, I think to be like an entrepreneur, to be a founder is like naive by definition. It's like, oh, you think you're that much better than everyone else that you're going to like make a successful company? Because yeah, most things fail, right? But I also think it's important, right? Like, so like the most successful founders are often probably the most naive, because they went after, I mean, like if you think about like Tinder, you're like, oh, like you're going to really build the company that's like defines the dating, app space today or something. Like that's a naive, statement, but like, look where they are today, right? And look like the companies that were built to like, especially consumer, I think were built by just like people who just have extremely high conviction and almost like don't know everything in the market. They know enough to make it work, but don't know so much that they're pessimistic.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I see the opposite, especially in the Valley, right? Where like, okay, you've been working on the same idea for the last 2 years, and like everything that you thought about the idea was like proven wrong. Like you thought the market was this big, it wasn't. You thought the willingness to pay was this much, it wasn't. Like you almost have to be intellectually honest with yourself and before you start the experiment. Because I think like as you build the company, kind of become emotionally attached to it. How do you set the guardrails, especially for a holding company, it's extremely important. How do you set the guardrails so you don't spend your time on the wrong thing?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's like A, picking the right thing from the start. I think B, it's like we've dealt with this before, right? Like we started out as an edtech company. Like we were going to like tackle the whole of the edtech market and like build like the next way that everyone was going to learn, right? And I think as we like continued, exploring the market and understanding what our consumers wanted and what we had built, I came to the conclusion personally that like for example, in the like helping students learn market, like the winner is not going to be the like homework solving app, right? It's not going to be the study app. It's going to be whatever is adopted by the school, right? And so like we had to make the decision of like, okay, are we going to become like this B2B kind of company? And
even worse with schools.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's
like B2B on like the word, like it's B2B without contract expansion with the extremely long sale, like everything bad.
Yeah.
Nothing good.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And like, I like doing hard things, but like I've sold to schools before. And like in college with the previous project I was doing, I was like, I really don't enjoy doing this. And this is not where our team's strong suit is. It wasn't where our heart was. And so when we made that decision, we had to like make the tough decision to like, make the change. And I think now like we just built this muscle to be hypercritical about like how we're spending our time, right? Like I'm 24, I'm going to be 25, then I'm going to be 26. I don't want to like waste my time like banging my head against the wall of something that's not working. And so I think like, yeah, us as like founders and as a team, we're just like, have become hypercritical about how we're spending any of our time. And that comes along the lines with projects. So when you start the project, having clear guardrails basically of like, this is when we stop. And this is like what failure looks like from the start. I think that's like how you protect yourself. Because I think it's kind of like trading, right? It's like emotional, right? It's like, we can keep riding this, it'll keep going. It's like, no, like set your stop loss. Like this is when we stop.
Before you make
the
trade.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
So I think that's like the difficult part. I think it's something we're still figuring out too, right? Because I think for us, it's like, I think potentially the way this business evolves is that, as I said, like, you know, we want to take bets that are calculated that can be in large markets. We're also taking some smaller bets to build more cash flow. But we want to take these bigger bets.
You guys are profitable now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Of course.
Okay.
So we want to take these big bets. But also it's like, okay, like how do you build the cash flow sustainability to like allow you to take these big bets? How do you know when a bet is like ready to like graduate? And what does graduate mean? Does it mean like shutting down 2 projects, selling 2 projects? Does it mean saying, okay, the product engineer who's working on this project should go and spin this out into their own company, go and raise VC and like tackle this market and move way faster? It's like we're figuring out like what are all these like dynamics that allow you to build like a really great holding company, right?
And are you planning to raise for the holding company?
Right now, no current plans. I think
you don't need. I mean, I'm guessing you can probably fund the engineering, the marketing, all with the existing cash flow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I guess like what I also like, I think a lot of people are like super like anti VC. They're like, I'm never gonna raise money. It's stupid if you raise money. All this like baloney. I think ultimately though, like they haven't faced a market in which someone's just like spending money unprofitably like for a long time, and like you're gonna like we faced that with Gauth Math, right? And it's like, you know, with Quizzard, like we built a great business. It's like cash flowing, but like we're not going to be the winner of that market. I know that, like, and that's okay to me. But like, you know, I guess what it taught me is like,
I mean, an arm chest. If you have, I don't know, $100 million budgets versus whatever, you know, like you just spend irrationally. When you spend irrationally, of course you can beat. Like it's kind of, I almost think about it like poker. Yeah. Right. If you're at the poker table. And then there's this like, imagine someone has just like an infinite stack. Yeah. Right? Where like it doesn't matter actually. Like it's just winner takes all, right? Like let's say, which, you know, I disagree that like winner takes all, but like let's assume
winner takes 60%, 70%.
Yeah, it takes a lot. Right? Yeah. So if winner takes all, and it's like all you need is just shove everyone out the market. It's like, yeah, you go all in every time. And like, yeah, like I'm not going all in if I don't have the best set of hands. No, every now and then, a big company is going to go all in and go bust, right? Because like, oh, you had it. Yeah. Right? You actually had it this time. But that's a stochastic event. I mean, like, why would you do that, right? Yeah. Like, you're risking, you can go like beat up against ByteDance, right? And be like, you know what? We're going to spend just as much as you guys, right? And like try to compete. But it's a losing battle because they can always bring in more. They can always do more.
Yeah. I think there's times where it makes sense to like go and spend that money. I just think we decided personally that wasn't the market we wanted to do it in. I think the direct-to-student consumer market is a very
it's a tough market.
It's a tough market, and I think, you know, there's reasons to do it for brand building, but I don't know how long a brand lasts there. I think Chegg is a perfect example of like students.
Who the fuck uses Chegg anymore?
Right, exactly, bro. They're worth like $90 million now. They're worth $10 billion at one point. Like, holy shit.
I think part of it is like the SEO thing is like messed. Like people don't search anymore. This stuff they just look it up on ChatGPT. Yep. And why I think SEO on ChatGPT. I mean, a lot of people talk about that. That's going to be a new thing.
Oh, it's going to be so interesting. It's going to be so interesting. But I think like the fundamental thing with students that like makes it so that like they're not like in the direct-to-student market, no one's loyal. It's like who gives you the most accurate answer, the fastest, and for the least amount of money. And
honestly, the brand aspect is not really there. Like, do people really like, I don't know. I don't know that there's like a brand associated with like Gauth even, right? Like there's like, I mean, they're going for it. Right? Like trying to make it synonymous with, hey, like who helps you with your homework is Gauth, right? But like, I mean, think about it. Any other kind of space usually has a brand associated. If you think about crypto, it's like Coinbase. If you think about like trading, it's Robinhood, dating, Tinder. Yeah. I don't know, sending money internationally, it's like Western Union. Like there's a company. What do you think about like with your education or like your homework? And what, Khan Academy? Like that's different.
Yeah, way different. Yeah.
Right. And maybe it's just kind of a natural function of the market. Like you're saying, students are unloyal and they don't really care about like a specific brand. They just care about getting an A.
Yeah. I think a brand can exist. Like I think Gallup is like building that brand, and I think like the brands exist in the past. It's just, I think the brands are not very lasting, is my opinion, like in the education space. Like I think like once again, like once they turn the money off, the faucet off, like how long will that brand actually last into the future? I think with ByteDance though, it's like they could probably like, for example, add this onto their ad network, right? And now it's like, okay, great. So like I spend 80% of my day scrolling through TikTok, and then when I spend 20% of my day doing my homework, I'm on the other ByteDance app.
Yeah,
and so
you
it's
watch
like,
an ad.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I have like 100% of the students like eyeballs on their phone, right? So maybe that's part of the play there. But yeah, I think building brand in this space is like really it's really interesting and difficult, especially in like, I think study space is actually like homework solving space and study space, very different spaces, very different markets.
Different problems.
Different students. But I don't know, scan and solve, very.
So what's the next product? Can you share?
I cannot share, man. It's this market is like, okay.
When is it going to come out? Was it already out? Like, is it kind of confidential? Like, what about that?
It's confidential information.
It's confidential. Okay. We'll see. Next time I see a TikTok ad, maybe I'll recognize someone.
Maybe it's already out there. Maybe you're already seeing it. Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah, but we're staying pretty secretive internally. I think it's just like the markets are super competitive. People are jumping on things when they see them. So rather like maintain as much of a competitive advantage or like a head start as possible.
Yeah, I think that's also another hard part. But honestly, like copycats never really win.
They don't. They
make it harder. They split the pie.
Yeah.
But I've never seen a copycat win. Right?
I don't know if like, okay, I think that's a reductive way to talk about copycats though. You know what I mean? Because I think it's like, it's like there are good, like if someone sees a good market and they like smart teams.
It's not really a copycat. Like they're just more, you're bringing awareness to like, hey, I'm making money.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone else is like, wait, I can probably do better.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's like good teams, when they see good signal, they act on it, right? Like, I mean, we do the same thing. Like, it's like, I think everyone, when you see signal, you act on it. And so it's like, you're just creating signal for other people. And like, why would I want to do that? Like, I think like, yeah, I don't know. That's like such a hard part about like, for example, like Twitter, right? It's like, you want to like build a public brand on Twitter. It's like, great. It's so funny when you like look at like Tweet Hunter is this like, have you used Tweet Hunter?
No. I've heard of it, I think.
Yeah. So it's like this product where you can like, it's a Chrome extension where if you go on, like one of the features, if you go on someone's Twitter, you can see like, okay, like what are their most popular tweets, right? Okay. And when you go through like the big like Twitter influencers in the app space, like a lot of their top tweets, especially from before they like gained, a lot of followers, are like the headline
revenue
is like
porn?
Revenue porn, exactly.
Yeah, it's just all revenue. The numbers porn is getting crazy at this point.
Yeah, it's nuts, but it works. It works.
Gets you, like you kind of have to devolve to that to like build a following on like consumer app Twitter now.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, that's a struggle that like we've played with, is like how much do we like feed into this and how much do you give out? I think for us, like the utility we've seen in it is like hiring, right? It's like ultimately like, you can do cold outbound to find really, really great candidates, or you can create like a signal that like, hey, we're doing something really cool here. And often the way to do that is like clickbaiting. It's kind of like with like you're using the same.
People see the revenue numbers like, I want to jump on this ship.
Right. Exactly. So I think that's the utility we've seen in it. Hence why we've like put out some things online. But I think we're at the point now where we have like a decent amount of legitimacy that, we've been able to use for hiring, and now, kind of like turn the lights off again for a little bit.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'll be looking out for those TikToks. Yeah, but Michael, thanks for hopping on the show. This was a great conversation. And yeah, for anyone that's interested in joining Oleve, what's the website? It's
Oleve, OLEVE.co.
OLEV.co. Mike is great. The team is great. Obviously, they're crushing it. So if you're building the space and want to join some cool people, check them out. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.